Right. Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to episode 142 of ICB TV. Can you believe it? Oh, you know, it doesn't time go fast when you're having fun. Anyway, I know one person who always has fun on a Friday is Jacquie Mount, the inimitable Jacquie, and all her advice, guidance, and everything else that's keeping you going. However, I do want to start with actually quite an important notice that really is very important to you. I'm having my hair cut on Thursday. So hair today, gone next Thursday. How about that? Just for those of you who've been following this for some reason, you know, I feel a bit like the Positano, whatever his name is, who they use to judge the weather or something. And I'm sure there'll be far too many comments about the length of my hair. Having said that, God, it's long, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so don't expect it to be too much shorter. I don't want to frighten everybody, but yeah, it's not going to be a short back and sides, but we'll see how it goes. Well, Jacquie, busy week or pretty quiet? It doesn't seem to be much going on in my field at the moment.
No, it's good afternoon, everyone. No, it's been fairly quiet. I'm up to my eyes at the moment in consultation responses. So we've got all of those going on at the moment for the next month or so. That's taking up pretty much all of my time at the moment, and meetings and discussions and roundtable meetings and everything else at the moment. So that's what most of my time is being taken up of. Gary, have you just seen the note on the chat line?
About the ponytail. Yeah, look, I've tried a ponytail. I've had a few of these times. And then I also thought I'd go for, I think they rather really call it the Essex Facelift, but if you pull it rather tightly, all these wrinkles disappear. And unfortunately, whenever I have a ponytail, it makes my head ache. So unfortunately not. But I have occasionally had a ponytail. That's good, you said. Well, thank you, dear. Yeah, I mean, I like having long hair, so I am going to cut it a bit short, and it's you know, and I'm letting the grey naturally grow out, obviously.
Same as me.
Yeah,
we use the same stylist, obviously. We use the same colourist, obviously, Gary.
We do. It is distinctive, so Dee. Yes, it is.
Oh, hello, Dee. How are you?
I said last week that I went shopping in Chrissy Applin's Emporium in Salisbury here, in the Phoenix Emporium, and I was completely masked up. I was dressed like she's never seen me dressed before, because I was all in my sort of casuals and my barber and all the rest of it, and she knew who I was immediately. I think it probably was the hair, but anyway. Sorry, Jack, we did the important part of the day. You carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was a lovely email came in from someone who shall remain nameless to say that he'd actually watched live for the first time last week and found it was great fun. I think, yes, probably the comedy is better live than it is recorded at some later stage, I think. Yeah,
something like that.
No, as far as Hmrc is concerned, and I suppose all the important things, you know, furlough and everything else that's going on, not much has happened this week. There have been no new announcements. So all I've really got for you today are some almost like housekeeping announcements to remind you of things that are now available and now open that we have spoken about before. But before I get into that, there was an interesting article came up through the social media or the accounting websites and things this week. Apparently, there has been a court case going against Amazon in Luxembourg, where this has been going around and around for a long time now about these massive online sales companies that aren't perhaps paying the tax that certain people think they should be paying in each country. And I wasn't aware of it, but apparently Luxembourg have taken them to court for non-payment of taxes. And the argument was that they had been given special dispensation for not paying certain levels of tax, which was illegal. Anyway, apparently this week, European courts have decided in favour of Amazon and the fact that they were not unfairly treated. They don't have to pay the tax, which has just saved them £214 million in the tax bill, which Luxembourg tax authorities are now apparently not going to get. So I just, want to throw that one out there. I don't know whether that's going to have a repercussion onto the UK. I have no idea at all, but I just found that quite interesting. It's a minor tax bill. But apart from that, the notices that have come out this week We've spoken quite a lot, and we did this on Technical Tuesday with Werner a couple of weeks ago about digital record keeping. As you are aware, from April, the soft landing for MTD digital links has now come to an end, and you do have to make sure you have all the digital links in place. Now, Hmrc had just updated their VAT notice. It's VAT notice 700/22. So if you want to look at that and you're interested in the digital links, there are some interesting things there that count as digital links, which perhaps I hadn't thought about. You all know you can't do a cut and paste from the spreadsheet into anything else. That's not a digital link. But if you have a spreadsheet that perhaps you've done some work on and you put it on a flash drive or something, and you give that flash drive to somebody else, which is then uploaded, that does count as a digital link. But there are some interesting explanations as to what they consider are digital links, which perhaps we didn't think might be. So it would be worthwhile looking at. It's about a third of the way down, I think. We've spoken before about the incentive scheme for taking on apprentices. Now that closes on the 31st of May. So there are only 2 weeks left to join that scheme to get some additional funding. However, before you apply for the funding, you have to have your apprentice appointed already. You have to have a signed agreement with the training provider for their training before you can actually apply for the funding. So if you haven't taken on an apprentice, it's too late probably now to access that scheme and get the benefit from it. Companies House webinars. Now, again, I've mentioned this before, but Companies House have issued 3 possibly very useful webinars. Now, this will be useful for you if you are starting out in practice, or you are currently self-employed and looking to move into a limited company. Now, those 3 webinars are entitled Choosing the Right Legal Structure for Your Business, Starting and Running a Limited Company. And also the third one, which might be of interest, because I get quite a lot of questions on this on the technical line, is how to set up a community interest company. And we do have some members who are involved in those, doing the books for those. So if you just simply go onto your search engine and type in Company House webinars, I did that this morning, those 3 webinars come up. So if you're in that situation, I haven't looked at them, but they're probably quite user-friendly because they're aimed at starting things up. So that will be useful if you're looking at doing that. And there are 2 initiatives that are now up and running. Again, we have mentioned them both. The Help to Grow initiative. Now, these are for businesses coming through the Brexit, the pandemic, everything's opening up, how to boost and grow your business. And there's free training and the possibility of getting up to a 5% discount in relevant software. Now, I don't know whether the software can be used to develop things like MTD. Again, you'd have to look into that, but it might be worthwhile following those up. And that is the Help to Grow initiative. And the other one that's just opened is the SME Brexit Support Fund. Now, this is a grant of up to £2,000 that you can apply for if you are in the process of starting to trade outside the UK and you're needing to import or export. There is some free advice and guidance there, which will enable you to claim up to £2,000 towards buying some help and advice in on that. So those are all of the external messages, but I have actually had a request come in this morning from Werner Gilvier at Hmrc. Now, when we did the last webinar with her, we were talking about, if you remember, all of the businesses who currently report VAT that is not MTD based. So as an agent, you are doing this through your agent online services account. And gradually from April onwards, you have to move across to your agent services account and submit your VAT returns for your clients through that. And interestingly enough, I can't remember the number, but it's suddenly the number of people who have now registered for their ASA account has gone up by something like 38,000 or something. So these are obviously agents who are having to set up their ASA account. Now, as part of that process, if your clients pay for their VAT by direct debit, there has to be both an email address and the direct debit details have to be re-entered. Now, what Werner is looking for are some clients. This is not for agents or our members. These are any clients who might be willing to give up an hour of their time in the week starting the 7th of June to work with Hmrc on an online training platform to help them work out to set up this new direct debit online. So what it will involve your clients, if they're interested, if they're in that position, if they're currently not MTD registered and they pay by direct debit, we're looking for some clients who will be willing to give up about an hour of their time at the beginning of June to help Hmrc, and they will go through their practice software online with an Hmrc representative to check that their software and their thoughts work. So if anybody's got anyone they think might be interested in helping, do let us know, and we'll send it off to Verna with some contacts. So just come back to me directly if you're in that situation. Now, but a couple of queries coming this week. It's just funny that you don't hear this at all, and then suddenly I get it from 3 different members with different software. And this is where, when it's to do with payroll, and it's when you're uploading your RTI information, and for whatever reason, what your RTI is saying is not what is showing on gov.uk for what's owed under for PAY and NICs. Now, this has come in from 3 different members within the last week to 10 days. So it's interesting that something is happening. One came in, well, I won't say which software, but it's coming for 2 different software packages, well-known payroll software packages. We all know them and love them. So if there is, I'm trying to sort this out as to what's happening with the individual members, but if anybody else is experiencing issues with the upload of their RTI at the moment, one is to do with the change of year. Another one is to do with a lever, where it sort of duplicated the amount of money that Hmrc said is owed. It's duplicated the lever's details. Do come back and let me know, and we'll see if this is a major error or a glitch in the system, or whether it's just a coincidence that we've got 3 people at the same time. So really, at the moment, that's all I've got, Garry.
Right. Well, I got a couple of things here. Obviously, we've got some questions coming in. We'll go through those in a second. Firstly, you mentioned Amazon. Now, Amazon, obviously, there's been a lot of criticism of Amazon and various other things. I think Amazon are popular because obviously people have been buying things from them. So, you know, you can't argue with the consumer, unfortunately. You know, we've seen ourselves that our members' clients want different things, and, you know, we're there to give them what they need within reason. And so, yeah, I think that's the way it's going. But having had the announcement this morning that they're not having to pay this tax, they have apparently 5 hours ago announced that they're creating 10,000 jobs in the UK, including a huge centre up in Gateshead. So, you know, it's an area of the country that needs that sort of stuff. And whilst we're talking about moving things into the regions, following on from our decision to decamp to everybody's home, along with everybody else during the, well, on the first day actually of lockdown, the first lockdown, it's become obvious that the Institute works very well, most of us anyway, work very well from our respective homes. And what we're looking at doing as we come out of COVID, hopefully for the final time, we are looking at spreading our net a little bit wider. So we are, at the moment, our compliance office run by Mike Jardine, who's our Director of Compliance. We're sort of setting that up in the sort of North Wales, Cheshire area. We've got all sorts of things like that coming up, so that we are going to keep out of London, so we get rid of all this big commute and everything. But there will be time when people want to work closely together and meet up. So our members will be, our staff, our team will be talking to each other. We'll be having briefing sessions. We'll have some fun sessions as well. So we're going to be carrying on as we are. But just to let you know, the London Bridge office is disappearing. We will keep you informed. You should not notice any difference at all when you're speaking to us on the phone or sending us emails or anything else. The only thing that will change, of course, will be the postal address. But we've got several months until this all happens anyway. And at some stage, you will be told we will have an address. It's just that we're not going to have the daily clocking in and clocking out of all the, you know, the entire team, because we're finding that actually people are working very, very well away from their office, and we're going to see how that goes. Now, when everybody else goes back to their office, when the world that was going to change turns out not to have changed, if that is the case, then we will perhaps think about it again. But at the moment, that's our plan. The other thing, just to notice about, I noticed the other day reading in the BBC News about Amazon in America. The big unions in America have been trying to unionize Amazon, saying everybody's underpaid and everything else. And I think the vote was sort of 3/4 against unionization, because they all said, well, actually, we get free medical, we get this, that, and the other. So, Amazon, we want them to pay their money. We want them to do things properly. We don't want them to listening to our phone calls and tell us what it is we want to buy next week before we even know ourselves. But let's hope that they've been frightened a little bit by all of the searches, and they're going to now do it right. Now, a big one here for you all to think about, those of you in practice, and actually those of you also who are in employment. And this is something that comes from Companies House, but as a bookkeeper, you are a relevant person in terms of Companies House. And they are finding that the information they are being given by people creating and running companies is not necessarily absolutely strictly correct. So you've got people who are directors, shareholders, and that normally seems to be the people who run the company. But there is an increasing number of people, the person of significant control is actually outside the business, and on the face of things has no ownership, control, or even part of a business. Whereas in fact, everybody within the business knows that somebody else outside at the end of the day is going to get the money. Now, this is something which I'm just asking you all to be aware of, because you now have a duty as a relevant person to report this. So if you're doing your due diligence on a company that is your client, as you would do normally, and when you're checking it every year, if you've seen somebody milling around the office that seems to be very full of power and control and everybody's frightened of them, but actually they're not something that you've heard of, know of, or anything else, you need to just be careful and make sure that somebody isn't pulling the strings from outside. Because what is happening, many, many different scenarios, but of course, if I'm a foreign investor or something or other, and I've got dodgy money to put into your company to keep your company going, and you snap my hand off for the money, you carry on your business, you pay your taxes, you pay yourself a dividend or whatever, you take that money, but then you have to pay it out of your personal account to somebody in another country or jurisdiction, or even in this country, I suppose. You're cleaning that money for that person. So you need to be very careful with it. Not that you would be doing it, but I mean, you need to be careful with this. So there's always a way to get around everything. And as if to illustrate that even more, a couple of weeks ago, I told you there'd been an article in the Sunday Times saying that the majority of people involved in umbrella schemes were bookkeepers. And, the authorities now realise that was a bad statement, and we're coming together to do a lot of work on this at the moment. So every cloud has a silver lining, as they say. However, umbrella companies are a new set of companies that are coming about at the moment. We've been approached by one this week, actually, from America, who wants to come over here, and they're setting up this umbrella company. They want to pick up somebody in this country who will act as their agent. So they want us to supervise that agent. Well, obviously we're not going to, because there's no control there at all. They're just a stool pigeon with their name and address. Now, in days gone by, it used to be some poor old lady in a council house in the middle of Glasgow or something or other. And those of you who came to the Inspire tour 2 years ago now will know that one particular address in Scotland had got something like 28,000 addresses of companies registered to it. They're acting as a trust and company service provider. So that sort of thing now seems to be disappearing a little bit. And these umbrella companies are moving in. Now, I'm not sure that there is a huge amount of illegality to what they're doing, but they are not playing the game as far as government is concerned. So I think most of you know that there is an incentive to start a new company where you get a 4,000, I think it is, relief on your national insurance bill. So what they do is they're setting up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little companies, and therefore they're getting £4,000 every time they do this as a discount. But then they're paying people through each of these companies. So they've got sort of 20 employees or something or other with each company, instead of paying paying everybody. The other thing, a big thing about these companies is they also try to get around IR35 because they become the employer, and there's all sorts of strange things going on at the moment. So be very careful if you're approached by somebody with this major get-rich-quick scheme. Yet again, as we all know, anything that looks too good to be true always is. So, be careful with this. If you've got any suspicions, you've got anything that you're a bit concerned about, please come on to us. Lots of people are getting caught with this. Apparently, NHS staff were mentioned in this report. People who have been brought in to do vaccinations, etc., that are getting paid. There's all sorts of things going on. In fact, a couple of government departments have been mentioned as well, and one of their big companies that they use for external people, etc., etc. So just something to think about. Jackie, I always come up with the good news, don't I? Anyway, so what have we got here?
Right, I've got a couple of questions come in to do with my payroll at Hmrc RTI query. I think it's quite a few people actually have come up. Pauline and Kat and Kirsty and Shelley have all come up with some thoughts on that. Getting non-filing happened about 3 years ago. So it's something that's obviously happening. So I won't go into those particular detail, but what I will do is I'll come back to you all individually. And Shelley's also sent a question in the answers about the Kickstart scheme. If you remember, this is where if you take on an individual, you can claim for some of their wages, national minimum wage. And what Shelley's asking is, can they split the payments for a Kickstart over a month? For example, April had 22 days, working 25 hours a week. Can we claim for 4 weeks and 2 days, or we do have to claim straight weeks? The answer to that, Shelley, is I'm not 100% certain, but I do have a lot of information on that. So I will come back to you and answer that one separately. But I don't think I'm going to get the answer for you this afternoon, Shelley. So I will come back and I will pick that one up for you.
Faye has said she watched the Accountex virtual summit on Wednesday, Thursday. Speaker from Hmrc, introducing new penalty system would be good for this to be mentioned. I think I did mention it last week and possibly a couple of weeks ago. This has been going the rounds for a while, and it's now going to be it's now being accepted. We looked at this right back at the start of MTD. As you are aware at the moment, if you are late with a payment, so that's an RTI return or a CIS return or a tax return, there's an automatic penalty of £100. Now, what Hmrc are doing is they're going to be introducing a penalty points system. It's a bit like your driving license. So you don't lose your driving license straight away or necessarily get a fine straight away, but you build up points. And what I haven't got my head around yet is how the fines work out and how many points you need to get. I know with your driving license, you get 13 points, you're kicked out altogether. So what they're going to do is they're going to give you a number of penalty points. And this, again, I've said this in slightly humorously a couple of times. Hmrc are now doing joined up writing with their departments. So the idea is that this will cover all the taxes that you have to do, where you have to make responses and submissions. So every time you're late, you will kick up, say, 1 or 2 points. And once you get to a certain number of points, you'll get a fine. And then those points will stay on your account for, and as yet, as I understand it, to be determined length of time. So they're not sure how long you keep these points. I think they're talking about having 2 clear submission, 2 or 3 clear periods of submission where you make no errors, and they'll start to knock the points off from the end. So watch out for that. As I get detailed information, then we'll obviously come back to you with it. Yeah, it was published a while back. I mean, the fines are quite high, etc. But the strange thing is that about 12 months ago, when ICB looked at introducing a point-based system to allocate fines and sanctions to people who fail their AML tests, I was discussing this with a group of people, including 4 people from Hmrc. Now, this is probably a coincidence. I can't claim that this was my idea, but I was explaining how it would work and said that what we will be doing, and those of you who don't already know, if you fail an inspection, you're given a working period during which you have to put things right, providing it's minor. But there are a series of sort of 26 breaches that you're not allowed to make and each one will accrue a set number of points. So if you've got a boom, a beneficial owner, you've appointed somebody you forgot to tell us, that is a very important thing in the eyes of OPBAS and the FSC. So therefore, you might get, say, 10 points for that. If you've been a month late with somebody's check on their due diligence, you might get 1 for that. I don't. It's all there at the moment. It's all in there. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But what happens is that depending on the number of points you get, those points will stay on your record as a sort of probationary period for anything up to, well, in really severe cases, 5 years. And during that period, you won't be able to chair a branch. You won't be able to apply to join the council. And various other things like that. So if you're about due to apply to upgrade to fellowship or something, or that sort of thing will be stopped. And it's a way of just showing the severity of what's happened. So, but I mention this because in the meeting that I was in, there were 3 people there from Hmrc, quite senior. And all of a sudden, the meeting changed to asking me questions about what we were going to do with our point system. And having answered my questions, they then apologised and referred to another meeting that they had to go to, and they all disappeared. And I didn't think any more about it until one of the people at the meeting is actually the person running the point scheme. But anyway, so I'm hoping I've not dropped you all in it, but it wouldn't be the first time, so never mind. I think the majority of people, I was going to say us, but I won't say us, the majority of people do things on time and as and when ready. And I think it's just a way of saying, look, you've got this wrong. And I do like the idea that there is this period where if you have a slip up one year, you're not damned forever. That is just that, well, we've got an eye on this one. Let's be careful. Let's make sure it's okay. And I think it'll work because, it's what I always call a stick hidden within a carrot there somewhere. But anyway, so interesting, Jackie, interesting times. But they're fine, getting quite big.
Yeah.
The not registering as a bookkeeper, which our members hate. The number of, we get reports every week of somebody they've come across at a meeting somewhere who says, well, I'm not registered. I don't need to be registered. I just do this part-time or something like that. And so they ring our line of, I call it the dobbing in line, the line where we take information like that and then we can pass that through to Hmrc, having done some research. And the fines for that sort of thing are getting bigger and bigger. And when money laundering first started, for us anyway, for bookkeepers in, 2006 to 8 was the big period, we were all very concerned, and I was very vocal that Hmrc didn't seem to have to worry about the things that we did not have any sort of fines or penalties or anything. And, they've come round. So we're on a par. So no longer can somebody say, oh, I'm going to give up my professional body. I'm going to give up my practice license because actually I can just go to Hmrc. I keep my head down. No, I'll never hear from them. They've got a whole regime the same as we have. So, everybody sits around a table nowadays and works it out. So,
and that's something.
Congratulations.
That's something that's ongoing at the moment, because to take that on a stage further, part of all these consultations that we're doing on, tax agents, tax advisors, that sort of thing. We've always said that our members should not be tax advisors, and we're looking at the definition of that. We're working on that now. But interestingly enough, Hmrc in their consultation document have come up with a list that says, actually, if you process money in and money out of a bank account for a client, you're a tax advisor. And I'm actually arguing the case for that, because Hmrc are also looking at continuing professional development. How do they ensure that the 1/3 of all tax agents stroke advisors that are registered with Hmrc for anti-money laundering supervision, how do they ensure that they keep their standards up? Because the majority of complaints that are coming in are for non-affiliated members who aren't with a professional body, because all of the professional bodies, as you are all aware now, have very strict rules. That's what, as Garry said, that's what the inspection team is doing. And Hmrc are really coming on board with this and taking this on, on point, as it were. to do
Yeah,
that?
there's a lot of discussion there. I mean, one of the things that seemed to be vexing a lot of the other professional bodies was, of course, that we're all professional body members expected to have professional indemnity insurance. Some have always done that, like we have. Some are coming along on board now. But of course, if you're not part of a professional body, there's nobody to expect that from you. So therefore, they were banging the table and saying, we demand that, first of all, everybody has to have professional indemnity insurance. Well, that's fair enough, but that only pays up when you've made a complete mess of something. The main thing, we don't want people in a position to make a mess of things because they've had no training. And although some of the 15, 20,000 people are organisations that are regulated by Hmrc, some of those will have been trained, but just decided they're fed up with their professional body or something or other. There's a large majority of there that are what they call, taught by experience. Well, that depends how good their experience was, to be honest. We have a lot of applications on a monthly basis from people who said, I've not got a qualification. Can I come in by experience? And well, our answer is always no. You've got to sit an exam or some sort of test with us. That's it. But when they tell you their experience, you get the general impression that their experience has just been a bad experience, basically, and they're not very clever. And we know that they come to us because somebody's turned around and said, well, it's coming soon. You're going to have to be part of a professional body. Start the process now. But we don't let anybody in by the back door. They come through the same door you all came through. And it's a tough door to get through, as you all know.
Well, Hmrc, I think it's probably about 99% certain now that all tax agents will have to carry professional indemnity insurance. That's the way this is going. Yep. It's not gone through legislation yet, but that's what we're aiming in on at the moment. But the question is, yes, professional indemnity insurance will give the client a recourse to some form of claim if it goes wrong, but that takes an awful long time to go through. And it doesn't necessarily mean that simply by holding PII, that the standard is going to improve. It just means they've got some insurance in case they still do it wrong. And how does everyone? It's easy for the professional bodies because we can put in CPD, we can, compulsory CPD to make sure that you are up to date. So we can all say that, yes, our members do keep their knowledge up to date. And it's going to be a very interesting couple of months coming forward or year coming up with everything that they're bringing in on board at the moment.
You mentioned CPD there. It's quite an interesting one, really, because we were asked the question recently how many of our members are completing their CPD. And I sort of thought, oh, my goodness. And we got a call. It's around 70% of our members. So bearing in mind it's not compulsory as yet, it's advisory. I was really impressed with that. So well done, all of you out there, for doing your CPD. The problem with bookkeeping and CPD is, how much more can you do before you become an accountant, auditor, or brain surgeon? There's not a lot there because it's the same stuff, slightly different format. So we're working on looking at what you can do. One thing that we are being told we ought to be doing is an annual test of competence of some sort. So as I've said to you before, we are working on that. Now, that's not going to be we're determined to get rid of you type test. It's to test basic changes in legislation or in terminology or something. Just make sure you know what you're doing. And the other area I think is that one of my, Jackie would probably say one of my silly ideas, but a long time ago, I decided that really members with a practice license ought to be member. Capital M, they ought to be able to do what was required of them. And we had a lot of people who got as far as associate and they'd already strayed into the member limited company area. And we decided that the software did most of this for you all anyway, and we couldn't really sit on our throne as in the sand as the waters lapped at our feet. However, those of you who were, I hate to call it this, but gifted member status, who didn't do your limited companies and your not-for-profits and what have you in the detail that others have, you ought really to be thinking about catching up, because when all these changes come about and we have to sign in blood to say that our members are all qualified, we need to make sure that we are telling the truth and that you all know what you're doing. So I can't say that we've had complaints about people not being good at what they do. It hasn't been reflected that way at all, thankfully. Otherwise, I'd have been in trouble. But I do think that as part of this annual test, we will be looking at things. So,
yeah, I mean, I can back that up because, as Garry said, he and I have had this discussion on many occasions. And to go from sole trader to limited company, internal draft management accounts for the client is not a massive step. But the not-for-profit is something very different, because everyone who's done the not-for-profit section, and if you came through the old N1, N2, C2, C3 route, will know that it was a question on the exam. Now it's a specific exam on its own. And I have to say, it's the one that does cause people quite a lot of issues. But it is important because, A, it allows you to take on and do independent observation of a charity account up to £250,000 turnover. And that's a big responsibility, taking what someone else is doing for a small charity. You are allowed to do that. But also things like community interest companies and the type of businesses that are now becoming more and more prevalent. I think I've had a community interest company query in this week. And there are extra things that you do need to know. So I would back what Garry said, is that if you do get a client in that area, you do need to make sure you know what you're doing, because it is different to your standard sole trader stuff.
Whilst I remember, I'm not sure if Garry Hudson from Training Link is listening in, but this week is an anniversary of sorts for Garry.
So I saw that.
Congratulations. I just wonder if he knows what the anniversary is.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Did you? Yeah.
See if anyone else. See if anyone's online.
Or if anybody from Training Link is listening, see if you can tell me what the anniversary is this week.
Yeah.
Anyway,
actually, it was Leslie that pointed it out to me. Said, right. Did you know? Okay, couple of comments. Anonymous here. I think CPD should be compulsory. And Judith's coming. Hi, Judith. Who's got an interesting point. I recently left a client and was replaced by an unregulated, quotes, business consultant, end quotes. Interesting.
Yeah, look, there are a number of people out there who are using terminology that they think gets them out of being bookkeeper, accountant, or whatever. Yeah. Doesn't. So, you know, they can be, I'm an office angel. You know, sorry, I've used a company there. I don't mean an office angel. I'm an office
virtual assistant. Virtual PA it is now, isn't it? Virtual PA or something.
Yeah. Well, if you're a virtual PA and you just happen to be helping them with everything they need, like doing their books, etc., you are a bookkeeper, and you can't get around this by using a title. Business consultant is another one. Well, I don't actually do the books. I just show them how to do their books. That's exactly what most bookkeepers do. So if you come across somebody like this, as I say, we do have a helpline to report people, or if not, just call us at the office and give us the information, and we'll give you the details of how to confirm it, because I can't remember the number off the top of my head. But it's very important that you know, we are not only guardians of our own standards, we need to make sure that everybody else maintains these standards as well. So anything that you can do to point us in the direction of people who are trying to get around the system would be gratefully appreciated. And
I was going to say, I know that there are members, because I've spoken to them. In fact, I had a lovely long conversation with one of our members this morning. I won't mention her name, but who you're finding, because you as ICB bookkeepers are being very specific about, I must have a source document, otherwise it's going to go to drawings and that sort of thing. And the clients are actually coming back saying, yeah, but so-and-so doesn't do it for his business because his accountant says, no, you don't need to worry about that. And that's where our members are having an issue. And also in the conversation I had this morning, apparently there are some issues going on around the construction industry scheme and claiming expenses and the tax. So again, if anybody's got any issues, particularly on CIS, I would be interested to hear about, because I would like to, I think this is something we should possibly go back to Hmrc. I won't go into any more details, but if you've got particular issues like that, and my current query is on CIS returns, tax deducted, claiming expenses when you're passing expenses on to the contractors, how that works. If you feel that there is an issue on that, please do let us know, because I would like to follow this one up. And it may be that I can have a chat to some of you online and we can see if this is a generic problem or whether it's just one or two clients.
Yeah, any trouble that you have with a firm of accountants, you know, obviously, please let us know. I mean, we've had one of our members recently, no names mentioned, who said that she'd taken a client from an accountant because she was now able to do FRS 105, 102A. She'd got her exam, she was fully qualified to do it, and the accountant had got very upset. But we were very supportive of the member, obviously, until it turned out that the accountant was normally charging about £4,500 a year for doing these accounts for a turnover of about, I think, 550,000. Our member's doing it for £75. That is not good for the member or for the profession. You've got to charge the right amount. Now, she said, well, that's what they offered. And I don't think that's right.
No, I agree.
You know, we're never going to get up there along with all the other professions if we're coming in as the cheapskates. You should charge, okay, probably less than an accountant, fair enough, you know, but, you know, you should charge a good amount, and don't think, but it only takes me 2 hours to do or something like that. That's not the point on this case. You are saving that person the rest of the 3.5 or whatever it is they're paying. But your knowledge has to be gained somewhere. You know, you have to take time to do your exams. You have to take time to put your whole career together, you know. So, yeah, they've got to pay for this. You know, there's a huge value to what you do. And that reminds me that we did promise we'd have a discussion group one day coming forward when we'd look at the various ways of pricing. And following on from that, a couple of weeks back, I said, would anybody please let me know of anything they'd like us to cover under ICB TV? Now, what I will say is we are actually going to do all of the suggestions we were sent, both of them. So if you have, we don't get much feedback, really. I think you want us just to make up our mind what you want, and it seems to be okay, and you'll tell us when it's not. So I'm flattered. But if there is something that you think you'd like to have covered, please let us know. Meanwhile, we are setting up expert groups. We're setting up an expert directorate, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, Jacquie is in there as our technical director, but we now have Ian Holloway, for example, who does the wages. We've got somebody about to join us to do tax. We've got somebody coming in to talk to us about HR. We've got another person coming in to talk about other employment issues. We will have a group of very, very well-respected people, probably not as well-respected as Jacquie, but close.
Oh, no.
And they are going to be there to advise ICB on its policies moving forward in each of those areas. And underneath that, we'll have a group of people who are actually going to be working with the practitioners, you people, you wonderful bookkeepers, to make sure that you know how to transfer our policy into your working practice. And you know, I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be big things. I mean, because you know, we're not just ICB bookkeepers; we are the leading accountancy body in the UK as well. So you know, what can I say? What can I say?
Absolutely. A couple of comments there. Firstly, someone, before I get to Pauline's comment, we should have could we have a webinar on charging so we can improve the value of the profession as a whole? So yeah, yes. Garry will pick that one up and run with that. Now, Pauline's come back and she's just picked up something that Garry mentioned about, we were talking about taking exams to increase your thing. Pauline did a course on, I think it was possibly not for profit or one of the other ones, but didn't have a chance to complete for whatever reason. Probably you're far too busy, I think. Does she now need to go back to a training provider to take the course again in order to take the exam? The answer to that is no, you don't. Now, I'm not saying anything against our training providers. They are superb, but you do not need to do a course to take exams. If you think you have the knowledge, then please take the exam. You can do the mock paper. There are 2 mock papers for every one, and you can have 3 goes at the live. So there's plenty of practice there for you. But we do also have textbooks on our website that you can buy if you just want an up-to-date top up your knowledge. So there are a number of ways. If, however, you're completely new to a subject and you really know nothing about it at all, then I think possibly you would benefit from the guidance from having a tutor to help you, because we can't help you with those textbooks. We can't give you support and guidance on that. That's what the training providers do. But if it's, you know, you think you know it or you've studied it before and you want to take the exam, have a go at the exams. I think they're £15. Is it a mock paper? I can't remember what the current price is.
20, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think our training providers nowadays are pretty good. If they don't think you need training, they are very good at saying, actually, I think you probably don't need it. Have a go. You know, 20 odd years ago, you know, they'd sell their granny if they thought you'd buy it. But that's no longer the case. They're being asked to be professional and are being professional exactly the same as you are. So I think that's good. But yeah, I mean, the point is, if you've got almost to the end of something or other and you think you remember it, but I don't know, you had an illness or career break off or whatever reason, now you want to get back up and do it, absolutely. Just make sure that you don't do a mock and completely demoralize yourself. So you know, that's what it's about.
However, what I would say about mocks is, for anyone who hasn't done one of our new online mocks, it's a worthwhile exercise always doing it anyway, because once you've done the mock, they are fair, they are quite similar to the exams. They're not obviously identical, but they are similar. But once you've submitted it and got your results, you can actually go back in through your My ICB. You can't change the answers, but you can work through the questions and see the answers that you put in, the answer boxes that you feel will come back either red, yellow, or green. It's a traffic light system. Green means it was completely correct. Red means sorry, but you got it wrong. And amber means that, well, you got it wrong earlier, but you've brought that figure through and you've been given part credit for your answer. And if you then click on the answer boxes, you'll get a little bit of generic feedback into perhaps how you should have answered that question. So it's a very useful exercise to do the mock anyway, as I say, but you have to make sure that you know roughly what you're doing before, otherwise it will terrify you. Right.
We've got one here. I won't mention the name. I was gifted membership status, as Garry put it, but had done the level 3 syllabus.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you did. If you failed the exam, I think the thing is you don't really know what you're doing, and you know, Jackie fought very hard for this bridge between associate and member not to take place, if I remember rightly. He wasn't very pleased about my suggestion. So I think my suggestion was still right. It's just that somebody else implemented it wrongly, which is not true. It was my fault. But anyway, I think we gave you the benefit of the doubt because we knew that the majority of you that were straying into limited companies because the software all treated all the same and it was easy. We didn't want to be seen to come against that, but I think it's important you do that and you know, get that information. And so yeah, I mean, even those of you, what we do find, I think I'm not sure exactly the figure, but I think something like 3 or 4% of all mocks are actually done by fully qualified members. And I've questioned a few of you as to why you do this, and you say, well, I just like to make sure I remember it. Because I suppose the thing is, with a bookkeeping career, bookkeepers, you are a master of quite a lot that sometimes you won't use for years on end. And then you get a new client and suddenly calls back something that you've got to dust down the cobwebs off a little bit before you remember it. Why not do a mock? You know, it helps you. And if there is a missing bit of knowledge, at least then you know about it and you can do a bit of extra CPD to catch up.
There's a couple of queries coming in for sessions that I think could fit nicely into a technical Tuesday, but I have no idea who I would get to do it with me because I'm not sure I'm up to doing it at the moment. Nadine's asked for an ICB TV about IR35. Now, this is all to do with the off-payroll working that's changed since April.
The umbrella company
not just about the ins and outs of how it works, but the actual bookkeeping transactions involved for limited companies. I will think about that one, Nadine, and try and get back to you and see if we can perhaps set something up, because I've got exactly the same issue at the moment with Brexit and export and how some of these transactions are actually posted. We know what it's all about in theory, but when we come down to the bookkeeping, if the software companies haven't made an allowance for this in their software and everyone else is still talking in theory, yeah, we need to sort out how it goes. And Nikki's asked, possibly an odd one, but could we have something on moving from Hmrc supervision to an ICB practice license supply without causing a break in trading? So that's going to be a change of AML supervision.
Yes, if it was going the other way, it would be more difficult because you have to have a reason why you're moving from a professional body. I mean, I think HMRC are quite happy if people move to professional body because then that gives them that. We've never had any problem with it. There won't be a break as far as we're concerned. The only problem is that you might overlap and be paying both at one stage. But if you are a member and you are in practice, you have to have a practice license. So if you suddenly become a member and you start your own practice and say, well, hold on a minute, I'm being supervised by somebody else. The two are different. There's practice license versus supervision. So you can have a practice license with us whilst you still remain supervised by HMRC. And then as soon as you send us your note that has finished, we just merely say, right, as from now then, you're supervised by us. That doesn't make any difference. We don't actually charge you for that supervision. It's just your practice license fee. So there's no fee there to pay or anything else. What it does mean, though, is if you're supervised by us, you immediately get opened up to AML Online, which is the software package that everybody uses, and that helps a lot in what you're doing. So there should, by all means, have a word with our compliance department, but I don't really see there's a problem. It should be very quick, but then again, I think everything's.
And Nicola has asked, if we outsource a service such as payroll, do we have to be qualified in that subject too? I think the answer to that, Gary, if I'm right, is no, you don't have to be, but you do have to do complete due diligence on the person you're outsourcing to. So you have to make sure that they are covered and they are well qualified and covered for their own AML. I suppose if you're going from an ICB member to an ICB member, that's going to be slightly easier because they will have the qualification.
Yeah, again, I would always check it out. I mean, we don't often get people claiming to be something that they're not in ICB because I think they know we keep a bit of an eye on them. But it is always, if you say, I'm thinking of doing this, can I just check this person? She's told me or he's told me that they are X, Y, Z. And we will tell you, yes, that is correct. Because the other thing is, of course, that it might be that there is something else happening against them that you don't know about, or, there's a sanction, or there's a black cloud because they haven't paid their subscription. So always check it out. If it's a non-ICB member, it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, you do very, very careful due diligence because you are still totally responsible because your client thinks it's you. And you made that recommendation, and you're passing on work to somebody else. Now that person is then going to have all those personal records and everything. So there is a big onus there. Now I don't want to put you off doing it, but just be careful on that. Even if you think, make sure they're qualified, and even if you're passing it on to a chartered accountant or something like that, make sure they are listed on ICAW, ACCA, CIMA websites, that they are chartered, that they are, they are members of good standing, etc., etc. If you've got any difficulties with that, if you ask compliance, they'll tell you how to do it. But I mean, these names are available on websites, etc., and just check that one out. And also have a decent agreement, because the last thing you want is your up-to-date payroll person speaking to your client directly and saying, oh, by the way, we do bookkeeping as well, if ever you think of changing.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first time.
Nadine is asking possibly about a webinar on marketing, pros and cons of creating your own website, how to create a Facebook page, whether to pay for someone to create your brand, Instagram, etc. So that would be a good one, I think, to do.
Yeah, it will be. And Paula Vesey-Smith is dying to get started again on her practice growth that she was doing, and her seminars. We're doing that. A couple of other members that I'm hoping to twist their arm, persuade them to do some stuff for us, because there's nothing better than listening to somebody that's already been there, done that, and got the t-shirt. So we will be doing all sorts of things like, setting up the business, starting your business, making the jump from sole trader to limited company, taking on an employee. I mean, that's one that vexes a lot of people. What are the pros and cons, and all this sort of stuff. I was asked, one of the suggestions was bringing a family member into the business. Her friend, when asked, her advice was don't. But no, I mean, we all know successful families that are working in ICB practices, and it seems to work very well if you can do that. But yeah, we'll get one of those that we know to do a webinar so that you can use their experience, gives you stuff to think about,
And someone's saying about a webinar on charging sort of on the whole to improve the value of the profession as a whole. I know this has gone around several times, hasn't it? We moved from hourly charging to fee charging and added value and that sort of thing. So yeah, it might be worthwhile revisiting that again.
Yeah, I think this whole thing will be. I mean, a few years back, we had Mark Wickersham who came on here and started talking about we should be quadrupling our fees and all the rest of it. And I think the biggest problem I had with him was it didn't take any account of the client. It was just a question of how you get more out of your client. So knowing you as bookkeepers actually feel a great deal for your clients, and you like to look after your clients, but you do want to get your money out of them. I think it needs a slightly less cold approach, and so we will look at this. I've been trying to do it for a while. I can't get too many people who want to come on and claim they're doing it one way or the other, but we will absolutely do it. We are working on the Inspire Tour again, of course, as I've mentioned before, so it might be that we do it in Inspire, or I think we might be able to do it as a series of mini ICB TV programs. Actually, we do want to do more with ICB TV this year so far. I mean, I think Jackie says, what is it, Jackie? You've got 3 consultations on the go at the moment.
Yeah, actually, 4th because is another one I'd forgotten. But yeah, apart from that,
we got 4.
3 or 4.
We've got so many things going on at the moment. Not to mention that little bug that was around, hopefully gone now. So we've been a little bit slow in coming forward, which is also why Inspire Tour has been delayed a little bit, but it's all coming, and it's going to be good. There is so much more that we can do for you, and it's coming.
Peter's actually said a lot of the suggestions to be covered in ICB are ideal topics for your local ICB branch, and I agree. ICB branches are great if you're looking at your local area for discussing on things. But I think a lot of what's come up here is actually generic to the whole of the membership. So yeah, but there's nothing to stop branch people doing it in their local area. One quick question here. No. Someone said, how do you know what year ICB textbooks relate to? Well, if it's an annual like tax or payroll, it will have notification of the year on the front that it applies to. If it's anything else on the main core subjects, then it won't be date specific. It will match the current syllabus and exams that we've got, and the dates will probably be generic dates anyway on there.
But if we're selling them, it's up to date.
It'll be up to date, yes.
Yeah. And
it'll certainly match our current exams anyway.
Yeah, and our current exams have been in for a good 18 months now, is it? No,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not changing dramatically at the moment.
Of course, the thing with the payroll and the tax exams is that there is always going to be a slight delay before you update to the new exams, because a lot of it, for example, payroll, you can't access quite a lot of it actually until the software, for example, you can't access until the 6th of April. Yeah, there's always a slight delay in updating payroll. And then you've got last year's course, but your payroll's this year. And payroll has always been a nightmare. That's why I'm so glad we've got Ian.
Nadine has just said, yes, set an ICB minimum wage. I've often suggested a figure that I think would be good as a minimum. But some of you then say, well, hold on a minute, I can't turn work down. And yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I think it's also dependent on the geographical area, because obviously different areas will have a different minimum and maximum fee. And I know there are some areas where, you might be charging, I won't even go into a figure, a certain amount, say in one of the cities, but out in the rural areas, unless it's a particularly affluent rural area, or even some of the cities, the people just may not be able to afford masses. So it's very difficult, that one. I remember probably 4 years, might even be longer than that, being at an Inspire Tour and somebody saying, I can't get more than X amount of pounds. I said, well, you must try it. And then I wanted them to do some work for us. So I offered to pay her to do some work. And all of a sudden, her figure had doubled. And I said, hold on a minute. She said, well, I did exactly what you said. I said, well, if you can prove that all of your other clients are paying that, I'll think about it. But until then, I'm more happy paying the old way.
Absolutely. Anyway. Someone's asking, the one at the bottom, Gary.
What is your minimum figure out of interest? Well, I think when we started 20 odd years ago, it was as low as £15. I mean, I wouldn't really think that any bookkeeper should be charging less than 25 if you're in a relatively, I can't call it poor area, but, you know, one of the areas where there isn't that much business around, you know, in parts of Midlands, Northern England, wherever it might be. But, you know, if you're in London or somewhere like that, you ought to be charging 35 to £40 an hour, I think. What do you feel, Jackie? I mean, it's very difficult to say, and which is why a lot of people don't want to come on and do a webinar for us.
Yeah, I know. It's very difficult. I know in some areas it is quite hard to get people to believe that we're worth that amount of money. But it's not something I could really comment on because I've been involved in this for so many years. And
yeah, I mean, I said a while back, you know, when I first moved down here to Romsey, I wanted somebody to come in and jet wash the drives because it hadn't been done for a while. And, you know, I had to talk somebody down to £30 an hour. Well, you know, that's a guy that can squirt water to pavement. I mean, come on, guys, you've done a lot here. Now, I think, however, ICB has got its part to play in telling small businesses just how important you are. So we have got to work together on this. It's not all down to you. I think small businesses have got to stop thinking that they need to get their books done and it can be done cheaply, so that's fine. They've got to realise that if their business is going to be run properly, they need a decent set of books doing. And the only way of getting a decent set of books is to get an ICB bookkeeper to do it for them. You know, you can't pick somebody around the corner just because they can add on, you know, without using 10 fingers. And so, you know, we've really got to work on this as a collective group, I think. You know, we don't have £1 million advertising budget to do this sort of stuff. But the other thing, I've got some big discussions coming up shortly with some of the software companies. You know, they can help us as well. Because, of course, if you can get your clients to pay you a better fee, the old software companies will want a better fee as well. So if they think there's an end to this that will help them, I think we should be able to go it. Because a couple of years back, I remember talking to Rod Drury, who was the founder of Xero, and he was convinced that bookkeepers were worth more. And, you know, it's the great thing that we have done wonders during COVID. And I don't want everybody to start forgetting that now. You know, let's get in there and let's, you know, we're an accountancy body now, you know, the best. So let's push every single benefit that we've got at the moment. Let's get out there.
As you can imagine, there are some hourly rates coming in here. I'm not actually going to read out who said what, because I think it would not be fair. One says, if I said I wanted to charge my clients £25 an hour, I'd have to pick them off the floor, and I live in the southeast. Someone else says we should be aiming for £35 an hour. One says, years ago, when I started a new client at £18 an hour, then found out he'd been paying £27 an hour. Suzanne, I will say this because she's not put a figure in there, there are a lot of people that still do not class bookkeepers as professionals. That's the problem with getting higher fees. And someone here charges between £20 and £40 per hour, depending on the services and the client.
Yeah, it's very difficult for ICB to be prescriptive because we don't want you turning away business that could become a much bigger business to you in the long term. The fact that you start at £15 an hour, when you get inside the business and you start selling them more and more services and you end up getting a lot more than that, then that's fine. And the other reason that we were going to do this was there is a lot of argument normally when I go to branch meetings about from those who are charging by the hour and those who are charging a fixed fee as to which of them is actually getting the most from their clients. And it used to be the fixed fee. People would say, oh, this is easy because, you know, I've got my fee coming in. During COVID, of course, a lot of fixed fees, I need to spend 50% less on my bookkeeping. No account being taken, therefore, of how long you were working on it. Yeah. Whereas at an hourly rate, you could say, look, COVID, look at this, all this furlough and everything else. It's going to take me hours, but I can do you a deal. You know, I mean, I spent my life selling. So whatever I've got to sell, you have to find a way of selling it and for a price that feeds your family, but doesn't break the bank for the clients. And it's a toughie, but we're going to have to.
Nadine says she firmly believes we should open this up within ICB to discuss it. But there's an interesting one here. This is coming from Maggie. And I agree with this statement. Unfortunately, the software is advertised commercially and they think it is easy. Now, I was watching on a commercial channel the other evening, one of the software companies who were showing the little app, and you just do this and everything works out hunky-dory, and that's fine. And I have to say as well, with the conversations that I've got ongoing with on the Making Tax Digital developments on this, for both the extension of VAT and the introduction of ITSA in 23, is that if you look at a lot of the wording that goes out from HMRC, they are still thinking that the individual client can do a lot of this themselves. And they're still thinking that the quarterly VAT return, the quarterly updates will be done by the clients, because there are an awful lot of people out there who can quite happily do their VAT return manually, but start bringing in the software and everything. And can they do that? Do they want to do it? There's a whole system going out there. And then someone else says about the fixed fees. The alternative, of course, is to do it on I charge this for a VAT return, I charge this for management accounts. But the other thing I would bring out is the length of time that you spend with a client per month, because sometimes you might spend half a day a month doing the whole thing and you might charge one fee. But if you're working for someone, say 2 days a week, if you're charging an extremely high hourly rate, that is going to cost quite a lot of money, and you're with the same client. So I don't know, this has always been going around, but I think it's just something we can perhaps open up again. Place.
I mean, you were mentioning before that HMRC is looking for some people to get their clients to start using the online HMRC system. I'm a bit concerned that that's the sort of wooden horse almost.
Yeah, no, this is so that they can test out the new direct debit scheme, and they want to do it with members, because unfortunately that's another something that agents can't do. This has got to be the update of the direct debit has got to be done by the client, because it's security for the bank and that sort of thing, and access to the bank accounts. And again, this week I've had queries from someone where they want to have access to the online bank so they can match and upload and everything, but the particular bank is insisting that our member becomes a full signatory on the account, which of course our member doesn't want to do, because that opens them up to a whole host of professional indemnity insurance issues. I mean, there's literally so much going on at the moment.
Yeah, one thing that cropped up this week, which I hadn't realised, and Mike Jardine has taken over now as our Director of AML Compliance, so he's sort of reiterating the rules that Steve gave us. We sent an email around to everybody and said, is anybody a trust and company service provider? In other words, are you acting as a secretary for one of your clients? Are you acting as a nominee director? Do they have your address as their registered address, etc.? And I thought it was a question of tell us and we'll just tick a box and send that off to HMRC because they have to be informed. However, it has been pointed out that actually you cannot be a trusted company service provider until we have said you are a fit and proper person. So although we've already done this for the majority of you, what I hadn't realised was we are actually saying you are all fit and proper people to be trusted company service providers. So we're just having a quick look back through all your records. So we are, but yeah, we are responsible for that one apparently. But
on Friday afternoon, this is turning out to be Garry.
I know, and you know, we've been looking at other people. Yeah. Somebody the other day, and she is earning quite a lot of money by letting them use her companies use her house as the registered office, and they just turn up every now and then and pick up their post. And I was thinking, well, hold on a minute, you know, that makes them a trusted company service provider. She said, no, I'm just doing it as a favour to, it turns out, 35 businesses. Well, hold on a minute. So, yeah there's so, how you work this all out, I don't know. I mean, the team here have just been spending the best part of 2 weeks trying to sort out our internal policies as ICB. And we're going backwards and forwards on a lot of them. How governments work this, how God only knows.
And I think probably the last comment on what clients can do and what members can do, Susanna says, it doesn't help that it's called self-assessment. It makes the clients think they can do it for themselves with no problems. I so agree. I so agree. Judith, I think that email went out a couple of years ago. It was quite a while ago, I think. It wasn't recently, Judith. So
Yeah. And have you seen one from Suzanne? Something to mention. Company's House has pulled the 3-month extension for submitting limited company accounts.
Yes, that's right. Everything's gone back to normal with Company's House now. I think that was a COVID extension that has now gone back. I think we did mention it a while ago, but yeah. Okay, I think we have answered all of the questions.
Yeah.
It's been a busy
afternoon.
So.
Thank you, Jackie. That was well, considering we thought that was going to be a quiet day, that's been a very busy one, hasn't it? But never mind, that's always the case.
Lots of useful ideas coming out there, though. Thank you, everyone, for that.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. And keep bringing in your ideas for ICB TV. We are going to try and ramp it up a little bit and do a few more things with it. I've got ideas, but then again, most of my ideas are well, impossible, can't be done too big or something. So we need to know what's going on. And
I think the one I'm going to work on next, I think the useful one will be something like IR35 and the recording of the tax that's deducted. And I think I quite like the idea of having to go at the IR35, but I will find somebody to help me out with that one. It's certainly not one I would feel qualified to do on my own. So
we've had a thank you and have a great weekend. I only mention that because lady's got a slightly unusual but lovely name, Chancel Ballard. Lava Sky Camp. Well done, Chancel. Nice name. Anyway, whoops, there we are. I need the stand. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great week.
Close, she says.
Let's be careful out there. Enjoy the weather if you get any good weather.
It's raining here this weekend, I think.
Yeah, well, we're down to rain. It hasn't gone quite as far as the last bank holiday of the month, but the next bank holiday, I don't know. But it's not letting up much before, if at all. So, never mind. You can get rained on with your family, apparently, can't you now? So,
Judith, I might just go back to Staffordshire on that one. The Staffordshire branch did a good IR35 presentation this week. I will contact the Staffordshire branch and find out who did that. Maybe we could do a general one.
Well, you better be getting in there quick, because I think June and I have been invited to do a virtual up with Staffordshire, so their members might be fleeing the county before long. Right, lovely. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much once again. Bye, everybody. See you next week. Cheers.
Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.